Hey, I hope you guys are doing good today. We are going to be watching the Roman Colosseum, what it was like to attend the games, and I am excited for this one. Uh, I honestly, when I was going through the channel and looking at some of the Roman stuff that Max has on his channel, I was like, I don't remember a whole lot from school about Rome for some reason. So I thought this would be kind of a fun one. I know he has some other ones that I definitely want to watch too, but this one kind of caught my eye. If you do get a chance, I'd appreciate if you can leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch, and I will have Max's video linked in my description below, so be sure to go give him a like and subscribe. He does an amazing job. All right, so I'm ready. Let's check out the Roman Colosseum.
If you were to visit the Colosseum in ancient Rome, what would your day be like? Where would you get your tickets? Where would you sit? What would you actually see? And most importantly, what would you eat? It wouldn't be hot dogs and nachos, but rather something like these honeyed dates stuffed with nuts and pepper.
That actually sounds pretty good, honestly. This actually looks nice. It looks kind of convenient and kind of like a little treat.
So thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video as we spend a day at the Colosseum.
Oh yeah, who is that behind us? I have no clue. It's adorable.
This time on Tasting History. Panem et circenses. Bread and circuses. That's what the poet Juvenal said that the ancient Romans really wanted, and he meant it in a disparaging way, but I gotta say, food and entertainment, that's kinda all I want too. And
True. That is true. I mean that's like they like go together like peanut butter and jelly.
should you ever find yourself in the ancient Roman Empire, the Colosseum could provide you with both of those things. The concession stands of the Colosseum offered chickpeas, nuts, fruits,
Oh,
sausages, little pastries, figs, grapes, peaches, cherries, berries, walnuts, olives, and melons.
that's a lot. That's a lot of snacks. I mean, it all sounds like you would be great to, go grab and sit down and watch whatever was going on in there.
The poet Martial specifically called out a fondness for dates, such as are sold at the theaters. So I found a recipe for stuffed dates using the ancient Roman cookbook Apicius de Coquinaria. Remove the stones from dates and stuff with nuts, pine nuts, or ground pepper. Roll in salt, fry in cooked honey, and serve.
I think this sounds good. This sounds really good to me.
Well, that's easy enough. Now, he
Yeah.
calls these dulcia domestica, or homemade sweets. But in fact, most people would have probably bought these already made. Because in ancient Rome, especially in the city, having a kitchen in your own home was really quite a luxury. So
Mm.
most people got most of their food at the thermopolia, which were basically ancient fast food restaurants. But since most people today do have kitchens in their homes, we can make these homemade sweets as well as a home-cooked meal from today's sponsor, HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a convenient way to get cooking at home, making more home-cooked meals, partly because they deliver all of the ingredients to your door, so you're not even having to go to the grocery store, and all of the ingredients come pre-portioned, so you're not having to do a lot of prep work, the most annoying part about the cooking process. The recipes
That's
are well
true.
written and they have step-by-step instructions that anyone can follow, so in no time you have a home-cooked meal ready to eat. Last night I made the chicken sausage spaghetti bolognese with zucchini. Wonderfully flavorful and very filling. A perfect meal to eat while sitting on the couch in my sweatpants. And HelloFresh isn't just for dinner because they also have a lineup of breakfasts, from egg bites to cinnamon rolls. And right now, they are offering a free breakfast in every box for life. Just go to HelloFresh.com and use code TASTINGHISTORYFREE for free breakfast for life. That's one breakfast item per box while the subscription is active.
I guess maybe I should put like a disclaimer here, like even though I don't mind watching the ads on here. This is from a year ago, so maybe don't try to use it. I don't I don't know.
That's code TASTINGHISTORYFREE at HelloFresh.com for free breakfast for life. Though if it's ancient Roman snacks that you're looking for, well, I've got you covered there. And for that, what you'll need is 15 to 20 dates. And you want a big date,
Okay.
like medjool dates, because they need to be big enough to get stuffed. Then 1 cup or 125 grams of walnuts, a third cup or 45 grams of pine nuts, and you can use either or nuts, walnuts or pine nuts, but I'm going to use both because why not? and then 1 teaspoon of black pepper. And I prefer long pepper because that was one of the popular peppers in ancient Rome, and it is easy to get if you go online or an Indian grocery store. It's
Mm.
wonderful. It's a little bit different from most of the peppers that you've tried, so try some long pepper. Then 1 cup or 235 milliliters of honey, and some fine sea salt for rolling the dates. So start by slicing the dates length.
This just sounds really nice. Like it has like a little sweet salty to it, and then like with the date and the nuts. I don't know. I feel like this sounds like a really really good little combination.
Lengthwise on one side. Don't cut them all the way in half. You want to just cut them so they can hold the filling. Then grind the walnuts and pine nuts in a mortar. Now the recipe doesn't say what the texture is exactly supposed to be. You can make this into a really fine paste, like using a blender or something like that, but with a mortar and pestle it kind of is not quite as fine, and I like that because it adds to the texture. What you do want well crushed is the long pepper. The finer the better, because biting into a big old piece of pepper ain't great. Once the pepper is crushed, add in the
Yeah.
nuts and mix all together until everything is evenly dispersed, and then take a date, open it up, and stuff in as much of that filling as you can. And you kind of want to pack it in there because otherwise it'll all fall out when it goes into the honey for cooking. Once it's filled, close up the date around it as best you can and continue this until all the dates are filled. Then take the dates one at a time and roll them in the salt. Again, fine salt is going to work best for this because you want it to stick to the outside. If you use like a kosher salt or something, it just doesn't stick. Once they're all coated, heat the honey in a saucepan. And you just want to bring it to a simmer with the foam rising in the middle, and you let it cook for about 10 minutes. And keep an eye on it because if it gets too hot, it will foam up and actually out of the pan, and you get a huge sticky mess that's just impossible to clean.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. I've never really boiled honey before, but I mean, honey is kind of messy. Honey is a sticky mess.
The pan and you get a huge sticky mess that's just impossible to clean. I've been there, I've done that,
Oh
and I do
no.
not recommend. So
Yeah.
you just want a little bit of foam and let it cook for 10 minutes, and then you can start adding the dates into the honey. Now they're gonna open up a little bit, so make sure that the filling is on the top, otherwise the filling will all come out. And instead of rolling them around in the honey, kind of spoon the honey or push the honey up on top so it gets into the filling, but so that the filling doesn't fall out. Leave them to cook in the honey for about 45 seconds to a minute, and then take them out and set them on a plate or a piece of foil or parchment. And then
They
let
look
them cool
good.
completely. It'll take about 10 minutes, which is enough time for me to tell you about the rather tedious build that is the
Oh
Lego
my
Colosseum.
gosh.
Then I
This looks incredible though. Of course they have a Lego set for this. I mean, what doesn't Lego make for anything? But this looks awesome. Oh, I love this. He did a great
nice
job.
thing is that because it's kind of tedious, I had plenty of time to let my imagination run wild and wonder what it was like to actually visit the Colosseum in ancient Rome. So you're going to the Colosseum. Lucky you. Just a few little things to cover before you head off. First of all, don't call it the Colosseum. Back in ancient Rome, they called it the Amphitheatrum Flavium, or Flavian Amphitheater, named after the imperial dynasty that ruled during its construction. The Colosseum likely refers to a statue, the Colossus Neronis, which was a massive statue of the Emperor Nero that stood near the amphitheater. Though at some point, after Nero was no longer popular, the Romans reskinned it so it would be Sol, the sun god. But as long as you see a colossal statue next to an amphitheater, you're in the right place. Now the second thing before
That's fair. I love this though. This I don't know if this is a mural or where this is, but this is gorgeous.
But as long as you see a colossal statue next to an amphitheater, you're in the right place. Now the second thing before you head off is that you need to make sure you got a ticket. Good news is they're free. Bad news is you're probably not going to get one. See,
Oof.
even though the Colosseum could hold around 50,000 spectators, some say it's actually closer to 70,000, this
That I didn't realize it held that many people. I mean, like, it's huge. Like, I mean, I've seen, I mean, I haven't seen it myself, but like, I mean, looking at the pictures, it looks huge. But I didn't realize that it it held that many people. That's actually really impressive.
The city had a population of nearly 1 million, and so not
Oof.
everyone was going to get a ticket.
Yeah.
Now, some years there were lots and lots of games, so your chances were higher. Like in the year 107, to celebrate his victory over the Dacians, the Emperor Trajan held games for 123 consecutive days, with
Oh my
over
gosh.
11,000 beasts and 10,000 gladiators entertaining the crowds.
That's insane. 100 days, 100 days of this. That is crazy. Well, I guess maybe everybody finally got to see a show.
But most years, they were only holding games on a handful of days throughout the entire year, usually around religious festivals like Saturnalia. But let's assume that they are holding games. How do you get a ticket? Well, just like going to the Super Bowl today, you need to know someone. See, while the
Mm.
tickets were free, they handed them out in big blocks to either guilds or very prominent people within the city. So maybe you're good friends with the head of the Praetorian Guard, not that Praetorian Guard, but the ones that guarded the emperor, and he could give you a ticket. Or, like me, you could be a miller, and one of the members of the Guild of Millers.
The Guild of Millers uses only the finest grades, true Roman bread for true Romans.
If neither of those avenues work, then they do have scalpers, so you could buy a ticket. It would just be a lot more expensive than you'd probably want to pay, seeing as they're free in the first place. But
Right, like they're free in the first place, and now you're gonna pay for something that's free. Well, some things never change, right?
let's assume you finally get yourself a ticket. The tickets, called tesserae, were often lead tokens or shards of pottery with information etched on them. And the information that would be etched on these little pieces of lead or clay would be similar to what you'd find on a ticket today. You've got the entrance gate number that you go through, your level or section number, and then a row number. And knowing exactly what these are, where you would be, is important to know what you're going to bring with you. Basically, if you're not a
Oh.
senator or the emperor, you're going to want to bring a seat cushion with you because all of the benches are either marble or wood, and that's just not comfortable.
Oh my God, yeah. I don't know how long these go on for, but yeah, I don't think you want to be sitting there for even if it's like 2 hours long. I mean, that's 2 hours on something that's like not very bum friendly.
Because all of the benches are either marble or wood, and that's just not comfortable. Luckily, outside the Colosseum, there are stalls set up with vendors selling cushions called tomentum circense, or circus stuffing. This was basically just chopped up reeds that were stuffed in, so probably not super comfortable, but more comfortable than marble. While you're shopping,
I mean, something's better than nothing, right? I guess if if you needed to buy something to that I guess it's not the greatest, but it's better than nothing.
stuffed in, so probably not super comfortable, but more comfortable than marble. While you're shopping, you could also pick up some tchotchkes, like statues of gladiators, or if you could afford it, a vial of gladiator blood or sweat, the
Oh,
sweat
wow.
being a popular addition to cosmetics. And you'd also want
Sweat was a popular addition to cosmetics. What were you using it for? Like, were they like using it for like perfume or something? Ugh, I don't. Well, I mean, I guess they're like the original bathwater.
blood or sweat, the sweat being a popular addition to cosmetics. And you'd also want to get yourself some snacks. Most of the vendors outside sold sausages or pastries or little sweets like the ones that we're making today, and you could get things inside as well, but I'm guessing, just like today, the prices were always inflated inside the
Probably.
theater. So you got
Yeah.
your cushion, you got your tchotchkes, and you got your snacks. Now you gotta find your entrance, and there were 80 of them, so it might take a while. Two
Yeah.
gates were reserved for the imperial family and others of very high rank, and then another two were used by gladiators. These were the Porta Triumphalis, or Door of Victory, and the Porta Libitinaria, or Door of Death. But more than likely, you would use
Nice.
one of the other 76 entrances. Then once you're
76 entrances though. That is wild. That is crazy. Gosh.
in, you just have to find your section, which was all delineated by class. The lowest section, closest to the action, was called the podium, and this is where you would sit if you were a senator or a priest or a Vestal Virgin. These were like the private boxes at a football game, and I'm assuming where Taylor Swiftess would sit. Then at the center of one of the
Yep,
long sides of the
probably.
Colosseum, like the 50-yard line, sat the emperor, along with his family and guests. Now the great thing about this section, the podium, is not only were you closer to the action, but also you didn't have to sit on benches. The senatorial class and the imperial family were wealthy enough that they just brought in their own plush cushioned chairs, like carting
Of course they did. I mean, that is that's not surprising. I wouldn't have expected anything less.
were wealthy enough that they just brought in their own plush cushioned chairs, like carting in a lazy boy to the show. Sadly for us, we're probably not part of the senatorial class, and so all we've got
Right.
is our little seat cushion stuffed with reeds. Now, if you're not a senator, but you are part of the equestrian class, well, then you would be fortunate enough to sit in the second tier, the Menianum Primum. These seats would have been made of marble, and there would be a big wall behind you separating you from the rabble in the upper levels. But let's face it, most of us would be the rabble in the upper levels.
So true. Yep. I would be up there too. Yep. That's where I would be. with my snacks and sweat.
There was the Menianum Secundum Imum, and this is where the plebeian males of Rome would sit. Then the Menianum Secundum Summum, which is where non-citizens, the very poor, and the slaves
Oh.
would sit. Both of these sections were probably a lot less roomy than the lower sections, and they would have less vendors going up and down the aisles selling wine and different snacks. Luckily, we brought our own. Now, there is one more section at the very, very top, a 15-story hike up to
Oh
the
my
pinnacle
God.
of the Colosseum. This was the Mesianum Summum in Legnis, and this section was reserved for women. Not only did you have to climb 15 stories, but then they usually didn't have enough seats, so a lot of
Well, at least those women would probably be fit if you if you gotta go up 15 flights of stairs. Holy.
not only did you have to climb 15 stories, but then
You
they
need more than
usually
your
didn't have enough
snacks.
seats, so a lot of the women had to stand the entire time, and you couldn't really see or hear what was going on in the
Yeah.
arena. But on the plus side, you were the first person to get shade. See, one of the biggest dangers about seeing something at the Colosseum was not a rogue wild animal or somebody throwing a javelin into the audience. No, it was sunstroke. That is why the velarium was so important. This was a huge canopy or awning that could be stretched out across the top of the Colosseum, giving shade to those below. But as it didn't come all the way to the center, many of the people closest to the center didn't get the benefit of the shade during certain parts of the day. So the
Oof.
wealthiest people wouldn't actually get the shade. So if you are
That's it's isn't that rich though. That's actually kind of funny. But I mean, I guess that's the price you paid to have the really, really good seats.
during certain parts of the day. So the wealthiest people wouldn't actually get the shade. So if you are in the best seats, hopefully you brought your umbraculum. These were parasols used for a little personal shade. Now, while sitting down in those lower sections was great because you could be closer to the emperor, sometimes it was not so great because you could be closer to the emperor. And
Right.
depending on the emperor, that might not be a good thing. Best case scenario,
He'd be throwing your butt down there to be fighting if he didn't like you. I would assume, like if I was, that would make sense.
emperor, and depending on the emperor, that might not be a good thing. Best case scenario, he might mock you for eating at the games. The
Oh.
Emperor Augustus, while watching the games at the Circus Maximus, just down the way from the future Colosseum, once saw a military man that he knew eating during the games, and then, quite rudely, he said to the man, "If I want to dine, I go home." To which the man eating sent a cheeky response, saying, "Yes, but you are not afraid of losing your seat." I guess Augustus was an
True. That is true. I guess some things never change, like the upper class, rich, whatever else you want to call it, like they're always kind of assholes.
cheeky response, saying, "Yes, but
Not
you are
all
not
of them,
afraid
but
of losing your
know.
seat." I guess Augustus was an emperor that you could give some lip without a lot of repercussions. That was not the case with the Emperor Domitian. Now, I did a video on Domitian and his cruelty during a specific banquet, the Black Banquet, but it seems that he was even worse at the Colosseum. One day, while watching a bout between two gladiators at the Colosseum, a man was overheard saying that a Thracian gladiator might be a match for the Murmilio, but not for the patron of the games. Basically, he was implying that the emperor had kind of set things up to favor the gladiators that he liked.
Oh, I bet that didn't go over well. I don't know who this guy is, but like if they're one that has kind of an ego, I can't imagine overhearing this is going to bode well for this one.
And Domitian, never one to overreact, had the man dragged from his seat and, with a placard around his neck reading "A Thracian supporter who spoke evil of his emperor," he was thrown into the arena and torn to pieces by dogs. So if after a few glasses of wine you get a little loose in the lips, maybe it's best that you're not sitting down by the emperor.
True.
Though no matter where you sit, everybody in the arena gets the same show. The day would open with the Pompa, which was a parade around the arena. There were trumpeters, water organists, and drummers leading a procession of animals like elephants, horses, and oxen. Then acrobats and dancers. Statues of the gods would be carried in on litters, nobles and soldiers in chariots, and finally the editor, or person in charge of arranging the games, along with his entourage, and of course the gladiators, who later in the day would fight for the enjoyment of the audience. Following the Pompa was the Venationes, or Hunt of the Wild Beasts. Bears, elephants, giraffes, crocodiles, wild dogs, lions, and other big cats would be let into the arena. Some would do tricks or were parts of skits that had scenery and costumes, and people would come out and interact with the animals. It was a whole big thing. And then often they were part of the hunt, and this would be where people went in and hunted the animals, sometimes ending in the animal's demise and sometimes that of the hunter.
I get that this is, like what entertainment was, and I don't know what else you were supposed to do around this time, but like when you look at it like from like today's perspective, it just seems like it's so cruel. But I mean, at the same time, I get it. Like what else are you gonna do? Like it's not like you got a whole lot to do around this time period.
Animals, sometimes ending in the animal's demise and sometimes that of the hunter. After this, it was time for the halftime show, the Meridiani, though instead of today a pop singer coming out and singing all of their greatest hits, it was a time for public executions.
Okay, well, hey, times have just changed a little bit. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that to be the halftime show. Although I kind of think it's cool that it is like a whole thing. It's like a whole, like parade spectacle type of I mean, like I think that's cool because like I said, like I don't really know like what else did you have to do as far as entertainment goes? There probably wasn't like a whole lot. So this is probably like a really really big deal.
Coming out and singing all of their greatest hits, it was a time for public executions.
I mean, people did like a good public execution though. That I mean that was for a while.
Very often this meant damnatio ad bestias, or condemnation to beasts, where criminals, prisoners of war, or other people who just annoyed the emperor were put to death by wild animal. Sometimes it was not the wild animals doing the killing, but other condemned persons, forced to fight each other for the enjoyment of the audience. Seneca wrote about this barbaric practice, saying that they had to fight each other with weapons but weren't given helmets or armor of any kind. The spectators insist that each, on killing his man, shall be thrown against another to be killed in his turn, and the eventual victor is reserved by them for some other form of butchery.
This makes me want to watch Gladiator again. I haven't watched that movie in so long. It kind of makes me want to go watch Gladiator now.
The only exit for the contestants is death. Fire and steel keep the slaughter going, and all this happens while the arena is virtually empty.
Damn.
And he says that the arena was virtually empty because most of the audience took this time to go get lunch or use the facilities or book some time with one of the many, many prostitutes working in the lower levels of the Colosseum. But
I didn't know that either. Hey, everybody has different kinds of breaks. but that is kinda sad though, that if that was like, like everyone's time to get up and stretch or like go do whatever or go get food or, like eat like an actual meal and then come back and then all of this is going on and there's like virtually like nobody in there witnessing it. Like that does seem kind of messed up though.
Some time with one of the many prostitutes working in the lower levels of the Colosseum. But they all came back following the executions because it was time for the most anticipated portion of the day. In fact, many people didn't even come to the show until this portion of the games. It was called the Munera and typically involved several dozen pairs of gladiators fighting, sometimes to the death, but especially if they were good and popular with the crowd, not to the death. So I've done an entire video on gladiators, so I won't rehash too much, but I will make sure that that is the video that pops up after this.
I will definitely watch that one too.
But suffice it to say, in ancient Rome, gladiators were held in high esteem. They were the celebrities and the top athletes of the day. Now, as the games were, among other things, a way for the emperor to curry favor with his people, there were always some little surprise gifts during the games. Sometimes it was perfume that was sprayed out over the entire audience using a system of sparciones. It was like modern-day misters, but instead of just water, it was perfumed water, sometimes with saffron or balsam. And sometimes it would rain not water, but prizes. These were called spartiomicilium, and they were little wooden balls shot into the audience, t-shirt cannon style. The balls were
That sounds a little dangerous. Like, you imagine like not paying attention and getting clocked by something like that?
and they were little wooden balls shot into the audience, t-shirt cannon style. The balls were vouchers inscribed with prizes to be collected from the sponsor of the games. Cassius Dio said that the Emperor Titus gave out little wooden balls variously inscribed, one designating some article of food, another clothing, another a silver vessel,
That's
or
kind of
perhaps
cool.
a gold one, or again horses, pack animals, cattle, or slaves.
Oh.
In one instance, the
Can you imagine catching one of these and you open it up and it's like, congratulations, you want a slave? Like, that just seems so wild to me.
one, or again horses, pack animals,
That seems a little
cattle, or
crazy.
slaves. In one instance, the recipient even got an entire apartment in the city.
Oh my
But
gosh.
should you get a hold of one of these balls, you wanted to get out of the Colosseum as
Yeah.
quick as possible. Because some of these prizes have already been torn to pieces in the hands of those who try to snatch them. The most sensible man, therefore, runs from the theater as soon as he sees the little gifts being brought in, for he knows that one pays a high price for small favors. Basically,
yeah.
it was safer for you to get out of the Colosseum altogether before the prizes even start getting shot into the audience.
I would imagine this had to cause so much chaos, like so much chaos. Like if you're giving away stuff like this, I can only imagine. I can only imagine how crazy some people got.
Now, maybe not as flashy as an entire apartment, another thing that might be shot into the audience, raining down, was food. Biscuits and melting pastries, Amerian fruit not overripe, must cakes, and bursting dates from invisible palms were showering down. And now everyone, be he rich or poor, boasts himself the emperor's dinner guest. Bursting dates raining down from the sky. Bursting dates, perhaps, like the ones I'm about to eat right now. And here we are, honeyed dates stuffed with nuts and pepper.
I think this looks really good. I feel like this would be a really good snack to bring unless you are a woman and you have to walk up 15 flights of stairs and you're probably going to need a little bit more than this.
So you've got to let them cool because at first they are just super sticky. They're still sticky once they're cooled, but not as sticky. Like, it's actually not that bad, especially if they're raining down on you.
Ew,
What a
yeah.
mess. Here we go. That's really good. That's really good. So the most surprising and pleasant flavors in here are simply the salt and pepper.
Oh,
Because it's a lot of sweet. Between the dates and the honey,
yeah.
you get a lot of sweet. Also, you want the texture of those nuts. Don't grind them up into a fine paste. Have a little texture. But to counteract the sweet, that pepper and salt, I think it's really important. They're not over peppery. There's a little heat from it. They're not overly salty. It's a perfect match.
I mean, this sounds like it's a very, very nice combination of things. I don't know. I feel like they look good. They look good. I would eat this.
They're not overly salty. It's a perfect match. They are really good. So these are
Yay!
way simple to make. They're easy to find all the ingredients. So give
That
it
is
a shot.
true.
It's definitely worth it. And I will see you next time on Tasting History.
I thought this was really good. I really enjoyed this one. You know what? Rome is really cool, and I should kind of maybe like brush up on my Roman history again because there is like a lot that I for like now because it's been so long I can't remember hardly anything I feel like but these dates looked really good. And I mean, like that was pretty simple. That was a pretty easy little snack that you can make. So let me know if you guys have made this, what you guys think about it. I kind of want to try it. I definitely kind of want to try these. But this is great. I absolutely love this. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to go and like and subscribe to Max because he does just such a great job. I just love these videos so much. So make sure to give him lots of support. But that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys had a great day, and I will see you in the next one.